Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear, listening into another What If discussion from me. And this time I'm going to be talking about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And no, I'm not actually talking about anything in-game that actually happens in the game, so you really, truly don't have to worry about any spoilers from me. Plus, I don't actually have the game, mostly because my Wii U gamepad is busted and I don't have a Switch. so... But that'll be remedied eventually, and I'll go through the game and play it and all that stuff. Either way, there was a situation where where it was potentially joked about that the lead character of Breath of the Wild wouldn't be Link. That the new hero would not be Link, even though we did find out like a day or so later that it was actually Link and that we would be playing with him. And this was a discussion that like I had with people and the gamers at large. Way like it was years ago. It was years ago. I actually had Triforce Johnson on a Gamer Idea Foundry for that potential thing, but we never really actually got around to talking about that. He kind of took over the show, but yeah. I always wanted to go back to that concept and kind of explore what that could have potentially meant if this character wasn't Link. Like, if this character, like, maybe not Link himself, but somebody that could be related to Link, like a son or a daughter or something like that. And this was after, I think this was after Linkle was, it was close to the time around Linkle being revealed for Hyrule Warriors. I know that much. Um, there was a. I'm trying to think about it because like there was so much that went on during that time frame. Like a lot of stuff was happening, and there was a lot of positive stuff going on back and forth. And there were other things that people were dealing with too. But I mean, like I'm trying to put myself in the mindset from back then. Um, and I remember talking to people in like group chats off air about this, and I was like, we should have done a show for this. We should have actually just done a full show for this and talked about all these potential paths that this game could have taken if this was not Link. Um, so like the one thing that stood out to me, the one option that stood out to me would be if the protagonist isn't Link. And I thought it would just be appropriate. But like if this protagonist isn't Link, this isn't a failed Link storyline either. This is Link potentially done having potentially done his job, and like sometime after, like it doesn't really matter which Link. My assumption would have been a Link to the past Link, but it doesn't really matter. Um, not even a Link to the past Link, but like Zelda 2 Link, because they are different Links. But yeah, having that Link having successfully taken care of the Ganon of his timeline, and he's gone on to marry, have kids. Doesn't necessarily matter if it's with or without Zelda, but he's married, gone on to marry, have kids, and somewhere along the way, he became more of an enforcer rather than the hero, and he was the enforcer of peace and prosperity, and people began to fear him, and he transitioned from having the Triforce of Courage, losing it, and obtaining the Triforce of Power. Some way, somehow, at some point. At some point that happened. And he became, again, like more like a dictator type character, like where he was in power and kind of had reign over things, and he's lost himself as the hero again. Like he's no longer the hero, he's the enforcer. Like he's the I guess in protecting the peace that he so so valiantly fought for, he becomes the enemy of the people that are at peace, and has rules and regulations in place that stifle their freedom and their ability to just live their lives openly as they would like to. So, and then we have potentially his son or daughter, or maybe a pair of twins that are his children, and they end up inheriting the Triforce of Courage somewhere along the line. Like they didn't have it originally. Like they somehow gained it, where it was split between. Like I like the idea of twins, where it was split between the two of them, and you have the boy being more like Link was as a child, where he's using the sword and the shield, and then we have the daughter being more like Linkle, and she's using long range weaponry like a bow and arrow or the crossbow or whatever. Just more stuff like that. Like that way, there's differentiation between the gameplay styles of the characters, and they potentially can solve puzzles in different manners, like just depending on how you would like to set it up. Sort of, sort of taking the concepts of Four Swords or Triforce Heroes, bringing it down to two characters, but the two characters are actual separate entities to themselves, even though they share the Triforce of Courage between them. And we can make it so that Link has, in some way, enforced rule and has Zelda under his thumb, whether he has married Zelda or not, whether he's King Link or he's just a highly ranked knight that has taken over. But like either one works for the situation. But like I think for most people though, more people would like the idea of Link having, married Zelda and he's become King Link. Like taking a royal position, like much to like how Ganondorf is the king of the Gerudo. Like he's taken a royal position. He's taken that position, and he's become corrupted by absolute power. That's why he ends up with the Triforce of Power, and he ends up having Zelda basically under his thumb and ruling over things. And you can have any sort of situation where it creates a fallout between Link and his children. Like and again, this is just another potential storyline that could have fallen into Breath of the Wild if they were to go that way. If Aonuma decided that, hey, nope, Link is not the protagonist here. He's not the hero. Like he's not the one that you like. This character is not Link. Like there's like, and I remember that because of I was talking with people, like you could just think of like a bearded, older, more muscular Link who's who still maintains his weaponry. He still has all of the weaponry and all the magical things that he has acquired over the time of rescuing Zelda. He still has those things. So there would potentially be problems with his children trying to take him on anyway, because he's got all of this powerful weaponry and all these magical items behind him. So it creates a situation where one, like the traditional Zelda weaponry is unavailable to them. Like the traditional items that you would use is unavailable to them. They can't get the Master Sword. They can't go ahead and take Din's Fire and stuff like that. They can't acquire those items. So newer things have to be created for them that serve similar purposes. At the same time, each of them has their own play style, so they don't operate in the same manner as the other one. So you could have this even set up as a single player campaign where you swap between the characters as needed to play it, or you could have a local co-op thing where two people are working together playing as Link, as the son of Link and the daughter of Link, to solve puzzles working with each other, or even have it set up as an online campaign experience where you're doing these things with other people, where you're discussing back and forth with another player how to tackle a certain challenge. And I like that idea. Like, make it so that each character can solve the puzzles, but they have to do it in different ways. That way you give everybody a different way to tackle it, where maybe the players might go into the same room together and tackle a puzzle, or they might separate and tackle a puzzle, but you still make it achievable for them either way, no matter which character they're playing with. They just have to do things differently, and it'll open up a lot of stuff. So like, you give multiple different ways of playing. Like, you have an interesting storyline where Link is the bad guy, but not because he started that way. He ended up that way, trying to protect the world that he rescued from Ganon. He ended up inheriting the Triforce of Power and lost the Triforce of Courage due to how he acted in the time of peace in order to enforce that peace. And his children, having realized this, or having seen this and realized this, maybe, do what they can to help. They're doing what they can to help. They've seen what their father's tyranny is like, and they've stood against him multiple times, and he's put them out. So they're on their own. They have to build up their own resources. They have to amass their own weaponry. They have to find their own magical items. They have to basically work out their own way to take out the king, to defeat their father, to end his rule. I like the idea of him being King Link. I think it works better for the scenario where he's enforced a rule of peace, but is peace under the veil of, if we do something wrong, we step out of line, that's going to be the end of us. So they can get the backing of the Zoras, they can get the backing of the Gerudo, they can get the backing of the Hylian people to help them stop their father. And like that, I like that idea. I like that concept. And again, this all stemmed from this thought process all stemmed from Aonuma making the joke and saying, well, that's not Link, or something like, who said that was Link? When people, I guess, disliked the design, I didn't really have a problem with the design. I just he looks different. He doesn't look like he normally would, which is fine. But not every Link has to look exactly the same. They really didn't in the first place. But it just, to me, I think that would be a cool concept. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a concept stemming from Breath of the Wild or its sequel. But I just like the idea of Link having rescued his people, and then he becomes the tyrannical ruler over time. Not like it's something that just happened immediately. It's just over time, to protect his family and to protect the people that he cared about, to protect the kingdom. He drifted away from the values that made him a great hero to become an extremely powerful ruler. And in doing so, he's encroached upon the lives of everyday people in the land that he rules over, because he's taken to, that he's become that powerful of a ruler. No one wants to question him, or no one will openly question him without a strong backing. And that's what his kids have to build up. They have to build up that, and they have to find sages and all this stuff in order to be able to gain the power to be able to take him on. And again, that's something I like the concept of. I like this concept where Zelda is the queen, and their mother wants to stop him, but she's torn. She doesn't have she has the wherewithal to help her children, but she doesn't have the needed courage. That's why they end up with the Triforce of Courage. They end up gaining it because they're willing to step out and stop him. They don't want to kill their father. They just want to stop him. They want to put a stop to what he's done. But and it would be an interesting twist on A Legend of Zelda, where you still have Zelda maintaining her position in the royal family, in the royal court, and she's still there with the Triforce of Wisdom to try to guide things. And she's the only reason that where you would come down to the fact that the land hasn't just been torn asunder by Link in order to protect things, because he's overly paranoid and things of that nature as a ruler. She's the reason that there's still there's still a semblance of peace in the land, because he doesn't, while he's being tyrannical, he doesn't want to destroy everything. He just wants to, he's just got an iron fist on it, or he's got an iron grip on everything. And again, this would lead to newer gameplay mechanics, or newer iterations of items that we already have known of in the Zelda series, for players to get accustomed to and to learn, and it could be a fresh start for the series, and it would be an interesting take. Again, but it's not something that has to happen. I just think that that's an interesting way to go about things, and it's a discussion that would be honestly pretty cool, for the series. You can get the Sheikah could be working behind the scenes to try to back the kids, to kind of work against what happened. You can get an explanation of what happened with the original betrayal from the royal family to the Sheikah and all this type of stuff. There's a lot of plot threads in this series that you can give information and inferences on if they were to do this. So that's why I'm bringing up the thought, and I'm considering it what if this happened. Again, the only reason this is even related to Breath of the Wild is simply because of the joke Aonuma made. That joke stood out to me, and I was like, why don't they go with that type of concept? Why don't they attempt this? Because a lot of people would be interested in it. I know I am. I would love to see a situation where we take the hero of a previous game, it should be a follow up to a different game, a different story in the Zelda series. The main reason I picked Zelda 2 is because of all the trouble and stuff that Link had to go through, and he had to fight his inner darkness and all of that. And for him to come back and succumb to that while he's ruling over the land, that would be an amazing story to go with. And plus the land, that setting, after following, when you follow the timelines, that setting is the darkest setting in the Zelda's split timeline, split universes. Their split history, so it would make sense for this storyline to fall in that line of in that situation where Link in Ocarina of Time failed or died. It makes sense for this to happen in that particular branch of the timeline. That's, again, for me at least, that's what makes sense. It's not something that has to be. It's not something that's required, but I think it just makes a lot of sense. So, I don't know what else to say, but it's just, I think it's just an interesting way to go about things, and something that Nintendo should consider if they haven't already, because it could very well be one of the best Zelda games to be made, because it would. And when people say Breath of the Wild really flipped the formula on its head, this would be taking it a step further. This would be taking it a step further than that, beyond what Breath of the Wild did for the series. And and they don't even have to go back to how Breath of the Wild operates. They could go back to the older school mechanics for this type of game. But again, add in different things that weren't there before, and that can expand the lore more, as well as giving us an enemy that we fully understand. We know where this character is coming from because we've been that character. We've played that role. We know what that Link has gone through. We understand why he's the way he is because we've played with him. We've been in his shoes. We've seen the world that he had to save and how bad it was. And we understand why he's so overprotective, that he could fall victim to the power that he's gained and become the enemy rather than being the hero. That all makes a lot of sense to me. That's why I like this concept. That's why this idea resonates with me so well. Because we've seen it through his eyes. We know what he's gone through. We know what he's dealt with. That's why it's such an intriguing thing. Because we know him. We've been him. We've been in his position. As the player, we've seen what he's gone through. So it makes sense that once the roles change, and we have to be his kids, we feel empathetic to him, but we know he has to be stopped. So it also has a different psychology on the player. Because you've been that hero. You've been in this hero's shoes. You've been in his shoes. You understand why he would be the way he is, and that's the thought process I think would have to be approached with something like this, and it could be amazing. But I think I'm done. Like, I don't want to run on too much. You guys go ahead and tell me what you think in the comment section below about this, because again, this is interesting to me, and I would love to see it happen, and I think it could be awesome. But that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games.